Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Let's go ahead and get started. Roll call, please.
We have Arlene Zortman,
Here.
Tom DeVee,
Yes.
Glenn Pepper,
Yes.
Jenna Reed, Carrie Snow,
Here.
Jamie Davis,
Here.
and then staff we have Molly O'Donnell,
Here.
Shakita Yarborough,
Here.
Kendra Daniels,
Here.
Tracy DeFrancesco,
Here.
Quincy Williams,
Here.
Sarah Arney,
Here.
and Jackie Dussault.
Here.
All right, thank you. Everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from June 9th. I need a motion to approve and a second. Okay.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Minutes passed. Public invited to be heard. We have what, about 5 people here? I'll be surprised one of these days. Organizational updates, advisory board member recruitment update.
I'm gonna go ahead and take this item, and FYI, I'm in the car for about 10 more minutes to drop the kids off. So I just wanted to say congratulations to Arlene Zortman for being elected by the Board of Commissioners to another 3-year term. And we're excited to have you on board.
Okay. All
So
right.
that was the only update for this year.
So are you doing the Shakita? Welcome Shakita, or are we just doing it here? Molly?
Okay, is that?
That's next. That's next.
Yeah. The other major staffing update is that we have hired Shakita Yarbrough to be our assistant director over operations. And so Shakita, do you mind, I mean, some know you from their days on the advisory board when you were on the LHA Board of Commissioners, but do you mind giving a little introductory intro to yourself and your background?
Sure. Thanks for having me here. I'm glad to be a part of these meetings from here on out. As most of you probably know, I was on the City Council for 4 years and sat on the board as a commissioner. I myself have been an employee for the Austin Housing Authority. I started out as a case manager for the Katrina evacuees, and when that program transitioned off with FEMA, I applied to be a assistant property manager at the Housing Authority, and then 6 months later became a property manager at the Housing Authority. So I do have Housing Authority experience, and so when this opportunity came up, it was amazing. So I'm very happy. It's almost like an extension of City Council. I still get to do the work that I love. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Well, we're glad you're here.
Yes, we
And then Shakita, since then, since you've come to Colorado, obviously you've been on our Board of Commissioners and City Council, so you're well versed in LHA's journey since 2020. And then you also had a nonprofit management experience and that type of thing. So I'm excited to see all of that work kind of pulling together. And he's already been, you started on June 15th?
Yes.
And since then, already dug in, getting to know the staff, and we've been working on coming up with priorities to tackle both short-term and long-term, and that's in coordination with her. Get to know you, meetings with the staff to see what they really need to do their job well. So I'm super excited. And that's that.
here to address the.
Okay.
So Molly, back in January, I think that we decided to hold off on the election for chair and until after this election went through. Are we doing that this time, or are you waiting till next time, or what is your thinking?
You know what, that's a great reminder. We were gonna do that once we finish this election process. So let's add on that for the August meeting.
August? Okay.
Thanks for that.
Everybody think about that. In case somebody new gets it. Okay. Development and project updates.
So on our side, I will give an update on the 180 Emory property. This is a property that the city is planning on purchasing, and then we would develop a concept plan for that site, and it would most likely include LHA. I can't say for sure because it's still on the city side of the court, but include LHA that could be the next rental component development. Most likely a mix of housing types, it's a really big site, and balancing council priorities as well. So that property, we are set to close by July 30th. And so once we get that part under, get that under our belt, then we're going to be digging in the second half of the year into concept planning and concept financial modeling. So it's really going to take off. But right now we're focusing on getting site control. I would say that we've been purposely slow playing a little bit, making sure that we wait for that concept planning process. To make sure everything goes through smoothly, but B, managing staff capacity. So I will let you know that in our housing crew over here at the city and LHA, we are going to be undergoing a little bit of a reorganization to bring the redevelopment team under the housing umbrella. So it would be housing and redevelopment. What we really figured out is, of our 3 arms of core work, we've got housing and community investment on the city side. They do policy and funding, and a lot of other things, but those are the big categories. And then we have LHA operations. And then in the middle, we have this development arm that really has only been one person, and she's been kind of the pendulum that swings between the two and helps maintain connection, because she's worked on LHA's rental project and the city's homeownership project. But what Harold and the city executive team kind of figured out is, because the city has such high priority redevelopment projects happening between the transit station and rail, and then with the Front Range Community College redevelopment in the lower downtown area, that Katie Pung was one of the only staff members under the city or LHA umbrella that had really worked on public-private partnership developments that were, vertical developments, not just infrastructure, etc. So they started tapping into her at the beginning of this year, and that has been very valuable, but that means she's spread thinner. And so what we're going to be doing is opening up a position to help support her, especially as she's in a military family, and she just a couple weeks ago moved out to the East Coast, so she'll be doing her job from remote. So that new development arm, I should say, would be Katie Pung, a new project manager position that is getting ready to post right now, and then Katie Faltis, the existing redevelopment and economic development person that the city has on staff. So we're growing. I think this is growth that makes a ton of sense for the city and LHA, just to have this working with the expertise that can hit a few different areas that are all similar but interplaying so much. So that's a big thing happening. So we're about to get some extra development capacity, which is something I've wanted for a long time, and I'm super happy about that. desire and the ability of selling that property to them for the purpose of maintaining existing tenant housing, but then expanding for people at City of Longmont that would make that affordable for services. So we're doing some big time math right now to figure out if this really could make sense or not. We should know here in the month of July if it does. And if it does, then we'll be having another conversation with the Board of Commissioners in August to confirm that we are on the right track. And if it does become a feasible possibility, that's when we would start resident engagement. If it, if it is workable. So right now we're still in this early look phase, but we'll know if it's a feasible idea here in a week. But it's not good enough. Otherwise, I'm working through with the City of Boulder, who is the keeper of the home funding, to make a project, an interim rehab project at the lodge feasible to get the window and trim replaced, because that needs to happen in short order. And this is one of the properties that's a much better fit for those home funds than many other types of projects, and they're pretty hard to spend. So when you have a project that kind of fits the box, that they're going to try and make that happen. So I'm in those feasibility talks with Boulder right now for that. And I think that is the extent of my development and public projects for right now.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, items for input to the board, the Abbott Commons.
Yep, so we don't have an actual packet item for this. We're still finalizing legal documents with the development team, but we will be holding a special meeting of the Board of Commissioners on July 21st. So this is really almost identically similar to the bond issuance that the board approved for the Parkside and Mountain View project here last month. And what we'll be doing for this one is a special meeting because their closing schedule does not work for making it all the way to the August 18th. So we'll be holding that after the urban renewal meeting first. Similarly to Parkside and Mountain View, LHA will benefit from doing this third-party bond issuance by getting a sizable bond issuance fee at closing, and then which would go straight into our general fund and boost our general fund reserves. And then we would get annual funding through annual compliance payments from the developer as well for the life of the loan. So overall, it's not very heavy lift for LHA in the beginning, but in the end, it becomes a nice bonus general fund revenue source. So I'd be happy to answer any questions about that. Okay, so that's the only item coming. Again, since we now have Board of Commissioners meetings every 2 months instead of every 1 month, I think our August advisory board meeting will have the bulk of items for us to get out.
All right, resident quality of life. There's nothing under here. I just have a question about, did Suites ever get their doors all totally taken care of?
The door project is completed.
So all of it's taken care of?
Yep.
Okay.
I believe this is the week, right, where we've got a bunch of coffee and conversations happening, and I apologize that I'm not more organized, but does anybody have just a clear set out of when, where this week for the meetings that we do?
I can do it. Yeah.
Okay,
But
thank
today
you.
is Hearthstone and Lodge.
Hearthstone and
so,
Lodge
yeah.
it too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Update on operations.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. The property occupancy is looking a lot better than it did before I left, which I'm very happy about. Other than Briarwood, that has 7 vacant units, the team and I, Molly, Jackie, we've all come up with a plan, and Kendra, to get those units filled. Kendra, are we going to do what we're doing, our plan? Is that happening?
I gave the.
Yep, so we're gonna drop those units to 30% units?
What for?
Briarwood?
Briarwood?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're dropping them to 30% to go ahead and get them filled. We felt as if they should be 30% units, and, you know, with everything about to happen with the sale, we should get the building filled up for, you know, the next company that comes in. So, there's 3 now. Yep, there's just 3 that are vacant right now. Those were, elaborate for me, Jackie, one person passed away.
Yes, one person passed away, so we have 202, 101, and 102 that are available.
And then, the other 2 were for evictions.
One was for an eviction, one moved out.
One moved out, so, we're dropping those to get those filled. Aspen Meadows, Senior, which we've been struggling with for a while, that property is finally doing well. I know Hannah has 2 applicants on both of those vacant units, so hopefully that will be 100% very soon. The delinquency that you see all the way over to the right-hand corner is not as bad as it looks. Every property that we have that has a delinquency is between 1 or 2 residents, which the property managers are working with. We're trying to find rental assistance. Some of them have vouchers, so we're able to use the VAST program to help them get caught up. But I am proud of them for getting on top of the delinquencies. We just have a couple, you know, that, like we said, it takes a little while to get somebody out once you start that eviction process, so their balance will increase as the months go on.
So your 2 top places then are Zinnia and Sweets, correct?
Yep, and Zinnia is between several residents there. The Suites is between 2 residents right now. And one of them, we have something in effect that we're gonna get the whole balance paid very soon. And then the other one, Nikki is working with them and the clinicians to find some rental assistance or something of that sort.
So Ascent, because we really, essentially those are new people.
Mm-hmm.
So already we're starting to see people that are not are not on top of the situation.
Yep, unfortunately. I'll have to get some more context from Summer on the back end as to why, but I think we all know why. You know, sometimes people fall into hard times pretty quickly. So, trying to find a way.
She did communicate one of them, so one of them is in hospital right now. So, they have to be able to pay rent for several months.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was just kind of a concern.
Yeah, you know, and we're still working to get Ascent, you know, leased up. On the weekends, I've gone to try to increase some marketing efforts to, you know, see if it's worth it for moving ourselves. We just gotta find a way to get some more traffic to come through. We're offering pretty good concessions over there at the moment. They've given us permission behind 2 to 3 concessions. Kendra will tell you 2, I'll tell you 3. But
I can't keep track of the changes on a weekly basis.
But right now we're offering 2 months free if you sign a 13-month lease, 1 month free, and $1,000 gift card if you sign a 13-month lease, or just $2,000 gift card if you sign a 13-month lease. So those are the concessions that we're offering, and hopefully we can bring some in. I know that those are the highest concessions in Longmont, period. I did a market survey before I left to go on my leave, and the biggest one was $1,000 Visa gift card, and then you had another option to get your garage paid for 2 months, or I think a month's free rent. So we are offering officially the biggest concession in the city, so hopefully that brings in some traction.
So have they finished up with Cook Street over there, or are they still working on,
They have finished with Cook Street.
okay, so
They
that
have
at
finished,
least
it's
is
paved,
open.
it's done, it's open, yep.
Okay.
What doesn't close that long? It's like a couple of
Right.
days.
Is there a lot of empty stuff out there on the market?
Yes and no, depending on the property. You know, some properties have more amenities to offer, so theirs could get full quicker. I mean, pools are hot commodities. Nobody ever gets to jump in a pool in Colorado, so if you can live somewhere where they have one, people will tend to choose that one over, you know, the next place that doesn't. So it really just depends on the property.
Are there certain units that are more vacant than the other ones, like a one bedroom?
78.
three bedroom,
All of
two
our
bedrooms?
one bedrooms are taken. We've
Okay.
already rented all the one bedrooms, so we have the 2s, 3s, and 4s. Or actually, 4s are done. 4s are gone too. So we just have 2s and 3s.
The ones and the fours are, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the 2s and 3s are probably more on the market too, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, with our 1s and 4s, I think we had like 4 bedrooms.
Mhm.
And then we had, what was it, just about 18 one bedroom, something around that. So those got filled pretty quickly. And
those were all project-based budgets.
PBVs,
Yeah,
they're all
so those
PBVs.
filled fast.
One bedrooms.
Yeah.
But we still have, Summer still has a lot of HCV clients, and we still have some people who are coming in and looking, trying to lease. So we're trying to sell it. This new concession was just implemented last week, so we're going to give it a little bit of time. Hopefully we can bring it to something in.
We also changed the local rental assistance program that is funded through the general fund. We had 15 slots that we were renting to, or issuing to single homeless people, households. We've changed that to families. And so we're targeting those to Ascent, not mandatory. They don't have to rent there. So at this point, we've got one person leasing up at Ascent, a 2-bedroom, and we've got a 3-bedroom household that we're being targeted over there.
Just my mind, low-income housing, and we have to go out and market ourselves with that.
Yeah.
I may not have.
Boulder County.
Are the 2 months of rent that we're offering, maybe like holding the bands, can the residents decide I want to take them right now or I want to take them a year down
I don't
the
think,
line?
are we amortizing, Kendra?
On the what?
On the rents, the 3 months, or they're just taking it up front?
There is doing it up front.
Yeah, so we're not amortizing the
They
rents.
have the option to amortize it, so they can take that concession and use it how they want to.
Oh, so they can.
Okay, now that makes sense.
But we don't
Yeah.
financially, we do it all up front mainly because, the way we want it to look for bank stabilization is you don't wanna show that concession over a standard number of months.
Yeah.
Doing it up front before you go into stabilization is a better process.
Maybe we should market that as well, let them know that they can advertise. We can take it
Might
how
need
they
to
want.
explain it better.
Well, yeah, for sure. I'll
You
explain
wouldn't
it.
advertise it, it's just something that,
Just something that they can
do.
take,
And I'll
yeah.
tell you, not one person has done that.
Well, because I want my money today, I want it
Yeah, I
right
want it
now.
now.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I know of at least one local apartment complex that's newer, it's behind Target, that absolutely markets on that. You can hold it, and if you wanna take it now, but you can take it if, 6 months, year down the
You
line.
said it's behind
Is
Target.
it Nova West or the Moraine?
I don't remember which one. I'm sorry, yeah,
Behind
somewhere right
Target.
behind Target.
There's 2
And
behind Target.
that flexibility, at least, this is just anecdotal, obviously, but was helpful for a couple of people that I knew who ended up deciding to go with them. I don't know if it'd be something that would be helpful for who we're trying to, get in and,
Yeah.
or how complicated it'd be, but makes sense, obviously, to financially account for that upfront, regardless of how
And technically,
flexible it is for them to be able to take it.
yeah, technically, we put the full amount on their ledger, so
Right.
it'll show a credit balance, so they could pay $1,000 each month, or, even short pay their rent, so
Sure.
that it lasts a little longer.
Yeah.
But I haven't seen that happen yet.
I'm gonna go shop that apartment complex and go see how well
Yeah.
they're doing from that, see if they've gotten traction off of that, or if that's something people, both of them, yeah, I'll go to both of them, take a look at that. Yeah.
We'll look at those.
Thank you.
How many people do you reject based on their income not being able to qualify?
We haven't really rejected anybody yet, unless you're going for 30%, which, you know, with the projections, because that line is so thin, but outside of that, the income limit is pretty high to be able to live in one of those properties, so we don't find ourselves rejecting too many people. You can speak on it. Have you found yourself rejecting?
Yes.
Have you?
Yes, because we require 2 times the rent amount, and that's what gets people.
Are you talking about in general or as a center?
Well, either one in general, but either one. I mean,
Well, at a
I'm
cent.
just struggling with this whole thing about we're not competitive.
Well, if we're talking about a cent, no, people, I mean, we need to get people in to want to take it first before we're even rejecting them. We're not getting that far yet consistently to where it's like, okay, let's check to see if
All I'm looking
your
for
income
is
lines
to
up.
see if there's a whole segment of the population we're still not able to meet the needs.
Oh, I mean, there is still a segment of people that can't meet it. And we get the ones who, because of the way that our rents are, we're advertising our rents, will eliminate that group of people before they even come in to speak to us. So,
We're eliminating them for other reasons. Or chasing them away from other reasons.
unless there's another competitor another property that they want to go to. I tried to steal somebody from going to another property, but they had a pool, so you know we were going to lose that battle. But
I think it's harder in the elderly,
I think it's
buildings
honestly, I
because
think it's the 2 times the rent.
2 times the rent
Yeah,
is a lot.
really. Because the 70% unit is $2,362 for rent, and if you have to have double that in your online,
It's $4,700 a month.
that's
Not a lot of
$4,700.
people
That's
are
really
making that.
hard.
Is there any opportunity there?
Maybe like I remember we dawned on the idea of the 1.5 times the rent. I mean, but that's tough putting people in that position with 1.5 times. I mean, you're barely making it, and we're gonna throw you in there, and then you end up, not being able to pay the rent. So that's tricky as well. And we don't want to set people. I would not want to set people up that way because then we're just gonna spend money on evictions and
Where are they living?
where. I mean, anywhere. I'm talking about sin. Are we talking about sin? Or just in general? In general, it could be different because we have a senior community as well. But if we're just focused on sin, I'm thinking of like the working class. So, yeah.
I don't think you would want to lower it to 1.5.
I don't think
You
so.
should have been, and then 3 months later, you're.
Exactly. It's not.
They're not paying, and then you have an occupied unit, someone not paying, and then
Yeah.
the eviction expense.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Gotten into situations like that in my career, and all we do is just set people up for failure by doing that. You feel it for a little bit, but and especially we're still in the lease up phase. We need people to be there for a specific amount of time, and you don't want to evict them.
So when we sell Briarwood, are we still gonna be involved in that at all?
No.
We'll be completely
Not the buildings or anything?
Nope.
Do
Well,
what?
we'll have the project-based.
We had the project-based voucher. Well,
But those will be moved.
those are moving.
Okay.
Those won't stay.
So we'll have no
The
involvement?
only involvement we have is, I think it's not the housing authority side, it's the city side where we put the funds in, when we had the CDBG funds that were put in that a while ago.
So will
No,
all roads will
there
take
is no CDBG.
over their
Is there,
leases?
we had,
There's
Yes.
home funds,
Home
but
funds,
it's,
home
when
funds.
it's expiring.
yeah, so the only connection will be the home funds, and once it expires, there's no
Roads.
connection.
We're totally out of
Property
it.
Yep.
managers, that's gonna be fun.
Oh, trust me, I know.
So specifically speaking about Ascent, like you were, I think at our last meeting, the meeting before, we're going over how Pembroke might be involved in some of the marketing or sending out some of their resources or people to help with that. Have you found that to be beneficial? Like,
Oh, of course.
Are you guys just like working
Yeah.
with them to try to use their resources obviously as well?
Yeah, any hands that we can get, extra hands,
Yeah.
is always going to be a great help. They did send over a leasing agent, and he is sitting in the office with Summer helping market. He comes on the weekends as well.
Okay.
He's come up with some, pretty good ideas as far as going out and marketing to, the city. Get some water bottles, take the labels off them, put the scent labels on them, go pass them out. He working with their marketing team as well. They've given us good ideas, so it helps. It's still a matter of, can I afford this apartment or not?
Sure.
We can market as much as we want to, but if you can't afford it, then
Okay.
Aspen Meadows neighborhood. I partnered with Energy Efficiency to get them all smart thermostats. So now they have free new thermostats through a grant, and it's compatible with your phone and your Wi-Fi. And the feedback that I've got over there that they love it. It was free, so I thought that was pretty cool. And I'm working to get the lighting changed outside as well through another grant to have the lights be solar powered and save property some money. And then last thing I have is Village on Main has a new smoking area. We met a couple weeks ago, and we figured out that we're going to move the smoking area from the back, and hopefully that makes the majority happy, because the majority hasn't been happy lately. So we're going to see how that goes.
It worked out pretty good yesterday.
So the bench that you guys put there, is it a problem?
It's not a problem, it's just another bench that's under the trees that we have a new unhoused woman that's sleeping on there. The people from the smoke are very excited about the bench, so they've been utilizing it. One certain resident went out yesterday probably a good 4 or 5 times, and like 3 out of the 4 or 5 times there was someone or other people that were occupying that bench.
So I'm working with Parks to get a bench that looks like the plaza placed where the temporary one is right now. And so I'm just waiting to hear back if they can order one for us. It's probably a money thing. I said, well, I'll find the money. It doesn't matter. We just need we need to do this for essentially both properties, right? So I'm waiting here for Parks. In the meantime, we have the bench that's non-conforming to the plaza. That's why you're having people sleep on it. So
are we putting 2 benches there, or just
we're
one?
just doing one.
Is there any thought to 2?
So
I mean, there's room.
Molly,
You're in and out, Molly.
I can't hear you.
Sound horrible.
So is it on LHA property, or is it on?
it's on city.
property.
It's on the city property?
Yeah, we talked about 2, I think due to space, and then I talked to David Bell. None of us really thought about this part of it, but we're going to have to, it's more than just placing a bench on the ground. We're gonna have to basically ensure that it doesn't get carried away, so we're gonna have to pour some concrete, drill it down, so there's a little more than just putting a bench there.
Well, I mean, and then on city property, we also have to, was that one of the areas that was designated a park?
Yes, Parks maintains that.
Yeah, so, well, no, was it one of those areas that we designated as a park when we did the breezewoods?
Yes, that's in there.
So, I mean, we still have then the standards of behavior in terms of people sleeping on it, but it gets dicey, but that's gonna have to run through the city side, because
Yep.
that's not an LHA thing.
No.
And
that's
so
what
technically, if anyone put something on our property, the city's property, that wasn't allowed, we'd actually have them remove it.
Right, so right now we're
Yeah.
So I'm waiting here from Ben Grattan. We'll see on pricing, and then I'll discuss that with everyone that needs to be involved to help pay for it.
Molly, try it now.
Is it better?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I don't know what's going on in my computer. It's also being very pesky now that I'm transitioning. Anyway, I just want to make sure we are all aware. This was a solution that we worked on with DDA, and Sarah included, so we can rope in parks. And that this location it's outside of the obvious plaza area where there are no smoking signs, and it's not. We do not want smoking. It's outside of that area, but it is in an area that already has a designated ash receptacle. And so it's not a formalized smoking area, but it is a place that is the most friendly place of all of our options. And if not, and we in working with DDA, et cetera, we're like, we both have a problem, because if we don't have an area that's acceptable, we're gonna have people smoking wherever and breaking rules on both properties. So, it is kind of, tucked away a little bit. It is officially city property. Thanks for working with Parks, Sarah and Jackie. But I'm hopeful that this is the best of not that many great options.
Give up smoking, that would solve it.
And that's all we got for operations?
Before we move on.
Yes.
The voucher program updates their admin plan, how this program is operated every year. And so I just wanted to say that that's out for comment. There's a comment period for 45 days, and the comment period is up, I believe, August 23rd. The admin plan, the draft admin plan with changes is on a website. So if you want to take a look at those changes, they're tracked, and comment if you'd like.
Do you want to share what they are, or are there too many of them?
There's a lot of them. A lot of them are just regulation changes due to the HOPMA changes. There's a couple, so you have your HUD regulation changes, which is required. And then you have the changes where PHAs can make policy, and there's a couple of small changes there. So those would be the ones that you probably want to take a look at.
Okay.
Kendra, have you talked to them about the HUD emails that we keep getting about it's an operation about fraud?
No, I have not.
So I think, well, historically there's been some ability to work with folks, and this is probably more on the HCV side than it is anywhere for us, but where historically we've had the ability to work with folks where if they don't report income or whatever, work with them on paying it back. HUD's shifted their position dramatically on that. So if at any point we think that there's been fraud, by not reporting income, we actually have to tell them right away. So it's going to limit the ability to what we were doing in terms of negotiating repayment options with folks.
Makes life interesting.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's really just pushing us into reporting the fraud, probably not entering into repayment options if it appears that there's fraud, because they've been pretty, I mean, we've got like, what, 8 emails on it?
Yeah, I think the issue is so many agencies are in shortfall. And so you're able to do a repayment plan that still allows this person to maintain their voucher as long as they're paying it back. And because there's so many in shortfall, that's usually the one thing they say, those are the individuals you have to kick off first, especially if they're not paying. So the other thing is that every HUD property needs to run what's called a PID report. So somebody can give you their income, right, and you're assuming it's all their income. But the EIB report really goes out and does a deep dive and pulls what their tax return says, so you have to pull those reports. And when we came on with the housing authority, they weren't pulling those reports on a standard basis. And so they weren't finding the fraud that was occurring. So that's another thing that they're trying to say, like, hey, you need to, we have to submit what fraud recovery we get. Tracy has to submit stuff to PIC, which shows if we pulled EIVs for those people. So they're probably cracking down on those agencies that haven't been doing their job.
And I think we can still enter into a promissory note or a repayment agreement and collect that back. But if we have to eliminate vouchers because of our shortfall, those would be the first ones that we would do.
Yeah, it just generally it's getting dicey because now OMB's coming in and they're looking at other changes that they were out for comment, and this is more global to federal, any federal grant, but in terms of basically putting rules in that says we can change it at any moment, we can reduce your funding, we can do these things, and so it's in a pretty exhaustive list. And so what we have to be careful with is that, HUD has this set of rules, OMB is coming in with a different set of rules, and so, I think if at any point there's a thought that it's truly intentional fraud, we're going to have to be pretty thoughtful in terms of how we handle those issues, because it's we're starting to see the second wave of it. Basically, it's putting, if these rules are promulgated, it's basically putting local and state jurisdictions in a situation where if you get a federal grant, you almost have to budget local funds equivalent to the grant in the event that for some reason they decide to pull the grant based on the way they're structuring the rules or the way they're proposing it. So we're all gonna have to see, but there's a lot of changes, and it's not just the agencies you have to watch out for. It's the Inspector General, it's OMB.
Yeah, before when we were finding fraud, we called the Inspector General, and they wouldn't really even touch it.
Yeah.
Unless it was a really large amount, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. So what we do now is of course the repayment agreement, but in certain circumstances we'll turn it over to the police department for investigation. In fact, they've got one that they're doing now. So we've got that local ability, which is nice.
Yep.
A lot of communities, the police department won't investigate the smaller ones, but $6,000.
Yeah. I think the point is where we could tend to err to the side in almost every case to the individual. We're having to really look at it in a different way, so we don't jeopardize the whole.
Well, what would cause us to report it to the police department?
If they don't enter into a promissory note, the one that we turned over had her husband living with her for the last 3 years, and then she moved. And we pulled some of his income and was able to kind of determine that on an estimated amount, they owed around $12,000. So the police have the ability to do a search warrant and get his bank statements, whereas we don't. So that's one of the things. If they were to move and not pay on their promissory note repayment agreement, then at that point we would determine if it was worth the resources, the police resources to go after them.
So the way it works is when you get a voucher and you sign all the paperwork, you acknowledge that any changes in income, both positive and negative, I mean, it's interesting because Tracy and I've run into situations where it's actually been to their benefit and they didn't report it. We had that, about 9 months, a year ago, Tracy? But when you sign the agreement, you're saying that any changes in income that you'll notify the program administrators of those changes in income. So where they're getting caught is, and it's worse if your income goes up, obviously, but where they're getting caught is they're not reporting those changes in income, whether they get another job or whether they have another income generating person living with them, and so they're not reporting it. So on the face of it, based on the documents that they're signing, it's clearly fraud because you've been put on notice that you need to report changes in income. Now,
did the report increase in number of residents as well?
Yep.
They have to report
all of it, yeah.
Okay.
And so it's a hard one to deal with because if you stay within the four corners principle from a legal perspective, they committed fraud by not reporting that.
It's not uncommon to see off-lease individuals, especially in single female head, which most of our shareholders are. There's a husband or a boyfriend or someone living there, but they don't mention that. And that person's working.
And a lot of it is a family member, a child turns 18 and they've got a job and they didn't report. That's a real common one that we see. And then the child moves out and the head of household still has to pay that back.
Right.
So that's one of the biggest areas that we're seeing.
So if somebody's income goes down, so the other direction, does that mean, and you guys get that information, does that mean that their rent finished less?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So
We
the rent
usually
is
see those when income go down.
Yeah.
Those get reported a lot faster than
Yeah.
income goes up.
Yeah, but I think, and when we get that money back, when they pay it back, the housing authority, LHA, can keep 50% of that payment, and then 50% of it is sent out ahead. So it's to our benefit to really be aggressive in getting.
And it's not sent back. What it is 50% you get to apply towards any admin, and then 50% goes back into the HAAB program as part of your funding. So they don't really actually take it back, but you have to report it in their system that where it's coming from, and then it ups your balance or lowers your balance.
Basically what it does is it cures your shortfall because it's inherently one-time funding. So it's not ongoing funding, so you can't assume that that's going to be there in perpetuity. So if you're in shortfall, what it does is it, shrinks the gap for any money that you can collect. But I guess the point of this is just to let you all know that flexibility is the piece of this that is being nipped away, and just wanted you all to know from an operational perspective it's a real thing.
And I think what's also going to be coming down is that right now, if you have undocumented household members, we do the way that we figure out the rent is different because we're not going to assist those people that are undocumented, and it sure sounds like that those households are not going to qualify at all if there's undocumented household members. Right now we have about 10 households that we're looking into to make sure that we have all of the required documentation and that they qualify.
So let me see if this scenario is what you're saying. So I'm on a voucher and I'm in the program and I'm a citizen, okay? But I have another or a mother-in-law who all of a sudden needs to be housed for their safety. If I bring that person in, then I'm off the program, is that what you're saying?
Right now, that's not the rule, but it sounds like HUD is going to be changing the rule. The way we have to do it is we have to use their income as household income, but then it's prorated, so we're not really subsidizing that person. So your rent goes up, because we're only subsidizing you, not the person that's living there.
So Tracy, I think the way it used to work is that, so if there were like two people, if the head of household was documented, and there were 4 people in the house, and one more person was documented, and 2 were undocumented, you originally could count them as like 2 of the household. Now, what its base level is they don't count.
Right.
So that then, basically the assistance that's coming in is lowered because you can't count them. So it's increasing the cost of your rent, just based on that provision. What Tracy's saying is they're hinting at that there's a different provision coming that says if anyone in the household is undocumented, no one gets the support. So either direction, at least today, it's going to increase your portion of the rent because you can't count them as members of the household. Is that right, Tracy?
Right.
So I say all of that because there's a lot of moving pieces that are, and this is changing real time in terms of what's happening. And like the OMB stuff, I got an email Thursday or Friday of last week where NLC and CML was wanting people to comment on it. And yesterday was the end of the period to comment on it. And so it's just, things are moving very quickly. What's happening is this is a result of all the litigation that's failed. So, they would make decisions, it would be challenged in court, the court would say you can't retroactively apply those decisions. So then what they've done is come in and they've been evaluating, well, how do we get to the same point? Forward looking. And so that's a big part of the OMB rules, is to basically say, if you accept a grant in the future looking forward, basically there's no certainty in the grant. We can pull it at any time. We can reduce it at any time. And so then that's going to be a space where everyone has to be really, really careful with federal funds in any agency.
And it's just a response to all of the fraud that they've been finding. And I think they just want a little bit more teeth.
Yeah. Well, in the HUD world. In other worlds, it's we give you a transportation grant to do this. We don't think that it's meeting the current desires of the sitting administration, so we're going to remove those funds. So how they utilize it by agency depends on a lot of different things, the way it's written. So, but it's forward looking. So they've realized we can't do anything that was already contracted. But as we look at forward contracting, be careful. So we're making decisions now to just say like, yeah, this grant's not working. I mean, we've been doing that anyway, is to say, is this grant and the requirements in that particular grant worth it? Nope. And so we're either not doing it or figuring out different ways.
Is you're done?
I'm completed, yeah. Yeah, Tracy took over. Thank you, Tracy.
You shouldn't have come up and gotten me.
So, at this point, if you guys are okay with this, Sarah, and I'd like to give Jackie and Ken both the opportunity to talk to us about what's going on at your facilities.
Well, so, I mean, we kind of touched base on my places actually already. So
Just the
Briarwood-
smoking part, but.
Well, Briarwood, we know that's in the works. There's a lot of things that need to be, done over there. Maintenance is gonna be working over there. Right now at Village, we, maintenance is working on like baseboard heaters, trying to do that in the open vacant units. I do have 3 people possibly moving in August. So then we should be only 1 vacant at the end of that. We talked about our smoking changes. Maintenance and we replaced the plants that were out in the front of Village towards the front door. We had some plants that were not doing well.
As well as your plants inside, you guys.
Yeah, we did that a few months ago. Those are looking beautiful. We really lucked out when we found the Lumen Fine Gardens company. I know that they have a contract at Ascent to do their outdoor stuff, so those ladies are great. She comes every week to check on the plants on the inside still, so really lucked out with that. I can't really think of too much else really that's going on there.
Jackie, when's your coffee and conversation?
The 27th.
27.
Yeah.
So if you guys get a chance to get over there, that front area inside, that which she was talking about, is really looking nice with the plants and everything.
Yeah, they chose some really good plants for indoors. And the ladies did a great job. They dug out all of the old dirt, all of the old plants. They put in new dirt. They put in diatomaceous earth, and then all of the new plants are in their own individual pots, so that if something should happen like we had before with the infestation of bugs, we can take out the one plant that is the culprit or that isn't doing well. It won't be again where we take out every single plant and have to redo the whole thing. So yeah, stuff nice. It's looking really great.
And yeah, as far as pending maintenance projects over at the suites, beginning on Friday, we're going to start an install project of 22 rooftop AC units, as well as the air handling units inside each of the apartments there. So we'll have a crane on site Friday that's going to lift the necessary equipment onto the roof, and then beginning next Monday, they're going to be on site to begin the installs. So they're going to be able to do about 1 unit a day. So during the course of a week, and they have a couple of projects we're jumping back from Boulder Housing Authority, but Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week they'll get 3 units, systems installed in units, and then they'll be back the week of August 3rd to do an additional 5 units. So after that, it'll be 5 units a week. So just working with the property manager there to notify the residents so everybody knows what's going on, making sure that we have the crane being on site is not going to disrupt parking or trash collection or anything of that nature. Currently over at Zinnia, just working on kind of handing everything over in good shape. So making sure that we're staying up on incoming work orders as they come. So right now, I think the oldest one we have was made last Thursday. So just making sure they're feeling well supported there, working with the clinicians. I'm on site there kind of office out of there every Monday and just kind of seeing what happened over the weekend and working with the clinicians, because sometimes they need to be involved with when we're going into people's units and doing work in there. And, you know, really at the Suites in Zinnia, just making sure that, you know, lots of things have accumulated. So we have a maintenance tech scheduled on site there because our for the last 6 weeks our maintenance tech has been on leave. So just making sure that we're starting to throw things away, organize things. Zinnia has, you know, mechanical rooms. There's not a lot of on-site storage at Zinnia, so some mechanical rooms are being used as storage. So we're starting to clear things out so that when the next property management company comes in, like I said, we can hand over things in good condition to them. Outside of that, Village on Main, we're going to be working with the same, at least getting a quote from the same HVAC vendor as Suites to get some of the baseboard heaters installed there. So we have quite a few baseboard heaters for each of the unit. We have the equipment on site there, but you know, we need to have the install done by the end of the year, so we need some on-site help to get those installed. And then as far as Briarwood goes, you know, just working and making sure we have to replace the back set of stairs, so working with the construction company on that. Going to replace the outdoor carpets there. Some smaller kind of repairs and replacements in the office areas. That should all be pretty easy things to handle. And then we do have vacant maintenance technician positions, so we'll be working with HR to get the job posted and interviews scheduled. And then as far as the custodians, we had 4 custodian interviews last week. We did make a selection, just working to get a hold of the references for the individual that we selected, and hopefully have the position filled in the next week or so here.
Now, is the water turned on, and the outside water turned on at all of the facilities at this time?
It is, yes. Yep, so yeah, all the irrigation systems are all working at all the facilities. We started using CoCal landscaping this summer, and they've done a lot better job, as far as I know, than the previous companies. So they've been very responsive on, you know, whether it's shrubs that are overhanging sidewalks or, you know, just irrigation leaks as they come up. So it's been a good partnership so far. We're pretty happy.
Yeah, I think they're good.
That's it.
Thank you. Miss Sarah.
My turn. Quiet. And I said it out loud.
We'll talk about Fight Club.
Really nothing to report. You know, the Suites is still our steady, you know, consistent public safety response. We had 20 calls last month. Everything else, and actually BLM had 6, which was kind of high, but just random stuff like an injured animal, nothing of great cause to be concerned about. Meth detector update, slight update, waiting to hear back from the vendor regarding a suggestion that Valtech made. We work with Ron on the city side a lot. Valtech, they install all of our cameras at LHA and the city. So we had, Dan Hill and I are working through this information together, and I don't think it's going to work out the way we'd like due to the signal issues we're having. So I might be going back to our vendor to ask for the detectors to be switched out to plugins. But we're going to work through the signal issue, seeing what Dan, our vendor, has to say regarding some questions that could be options, but I think it's going to be too costly. So right now we have them all installed in our units that folks are living in, and I can see some of them and I can't see some of the others. So It's very hit and miss.
Is this the frequency issue or
Yeah.
it's the towers?
Yes, I'll send you, just for info, what
Yeah.
Ron sent us regarding all the different cell companies and coverage in that area, so.
What do you mean by plug it?
The detector itself would plug into an electrical outlet. So that would, Kenny and his team might not like me, but that might be a direction we have to go.
How
So-
will we get the signal at that point then? Is that the issue that we're trying to fix with that one, or is it working on the battery trying
That's-
to connect?
So sorry,
Yeah.
that is it's a different issue, it's the
Oh.
battery thing and the signal piece, but I believe the new detectors are going to be not cell-based. And I wrote it down in my notes of depth, but
Wi-Fi?
it's either gonna be Wi-Fi or something else, it's not gonna be cell. So, that's why we would wanna make the switch. And he did offer that, if we needed to go that route, so. That's all I have.
All right, Executive Director.
I think I said what I was gonna say earlier, so. Any questions for me?
I guess not.
Very good.
Okay, is there any other business that somebody wants to talk about? If not, we're gonna leave early today. I need a motion and a second to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Gary. We're adjourned. We'll see you on August 11th.